Hello, thank you for joining me on this short video, Border Control Posts. My name's Andy Bowles and I'm a food lawyer. Now, this is the 76th in a series of 100 videos that I'm recording on UK food law topics. Now, you may be watching this as part of our online training service, in which case you'll have access to a lot more additional resources. But if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, you are, of course, very welcome. Now, you might find it helpful to go and watch some of my other videos, notably the video on import procedures. But if you haven't done that already, don't worry, so I'm just going to summarise it. If this relates to the importation of foods from outside of Great Britain into Great Britain. Now, if the foods can be divided up into a number of categories, but the two categories I'm referring to here are products of animal origin, POAO, and high-risk foods not of animal origin, this FNAO, but high-risk ones. Now, with the import of these products, both of them need to be imported, that's the high-risk foods not of animal origin, need to be imported through a border control post. So what's a border control post? A border control post is a facility that's been specifically authorised at a port of entry to perform checks on the relevant products. So it's a facility within the port, it's operated by specialist staff, and it will be performing either veterinary checks or enhanced checks on products that have been identified as being of particular high risk. So with products of animal origin, the issue here is the veterinary checks be carried out at the border control post and a document will be issued. This document is generated by the importer of the product, so someone who is responsible for the consignment in Great Britain, who will complete the first part of what's known as a CHED-P, a Common Health Entry document, online using an IPAF system. Don't worry, I'm coming back to that in a moment. So there's a pre-notification requirement for products of animal origin being imported into Great Britain through a border control post. And so the IPAF is used to do that. The importer will complete some basic information about that, the port will undertake their checks, and then a document will be issued. For products of animal origin, this is a Common Health Entry document, P, and that document will go to the first destination inland of the food, so the first destination after leaving the port. With the high-risk foods not of animal origin, then it's the same sort of process, not veterinary checks, but checks be carried out. But again, the person responsible for the consignment will, in Great Britain, will need to complete the IPAF's pre-notification prior to the products arriving at the relevant border control post, and then the relevant checks will be carried out and recorded on a physical document, the CHED-D, which is a Common Health Entry document but refers to foods not of animal origin. So just to further clarify, what am I talking about? Products of animal origin. I'm referring to mainly meat, fish, dairy, eggs, honey, products of that nature. Of course, the list is greater, and it also includes live animals, but live animals is outside of my scope. I'm dealing with food rather than things that will soon be food, but the same procedures will apply to live animals. There are other products that are not listed here. It's basically, if it's of animal origin, it's likely to need to go through a border control post. High-risk foods not of animal origin, there is a separate video on this, but these are foods imported from around the world, foods not of animal origin, so they're typically things like nuts, things of that nature, might be herbs, might be spices, and they might either be on a permanent list where we know there is potential concerns, particularly in relation to food contaminants, and therefore they need to be checked when they're actually presented for import at the border control post, or else they're on a temporary list because of concerns that have been highlighted through various intelligence that maybe these foods require additional requirements. So high-risk foods not of animal origin are ones specified in law as such and ones that have to be presented at a border control post. So where are the border control posts? Well, you can go to the www.gov.uk website and find the relevant border control posts in Great Britain. So you'll find them on a handy map. You can search for them in relation to animal products, products of non-animal origin, or live animals. So if you've got a high-risk food not of animal origin you want to import, then you can go onto this website and identify which port is authorised for that, because border control posts are not authorised for everything. Some border control posts will only be authorised to perform checks on certain goods or in certain ways. So you need to be clear that if you're importing whether it be live animals, product of animal origin, high-risk food not of animal origin, if you're importing any of those into Great Britain, that you present them to the correct border control post who is authorised to perform the checks on them. The border control posts, the facilities are prescribed in law, so they all have the same sort of things in place. They'll have inspection facilities, they'll have facilities where they can take samples, they'll have facilities where they might need to perform physical checks, which might be organoleptic checks. They might be cooking the food up or opening the product, taking temperatures and so forth. So these facilities at the port of entry are designed to be able to perform the relevant checks on food. I mentioned the issue of pre-notification, and pre-notification is performed by the person responsible for the consignment who is established in GB, so in Great Britain, and they use this online system, the IPAF system, Import of Products, Animals, Food and Feed system. And with products of animal origin and with foods, high-risk foods not of animal origin, the general requirement, although there are some exceptions to this, but the general requirement is you must pre-notify at least 1 day prior to the food arriving at the border control post. So what happens at the border control post? Well, veterinary checks will include, and there is a separate video on veterinary checks you can go and have a look at, but they'll include a documentary check where the port officers will check the documents are relevant, and on a risk basis they'll carry out identity and physical checks. Identity checks based on just reconciling the product that's arrived at the port with what's on the documents. A physical check would be things like temperature checks, sampling, organoleptic, checking the product itself. So what will happen is typically documentary checks are done sort of remotely, because as part of IPAFs you'll be uploading things like health certificates and certificates of analysis and things like that. So the port can do that quite simply. But the identity and physical checks will be carried out in accordance with risk. And there is a separate video, as I say, on that. The checks are performed by official veterinarians or official fish inspectors. So the official veterinarians are just that, they're vets who have been approved to perform the veterinary checks. Official fish inspectors are environmental health officers who've done some additional training and are expert in examination of fish and fishery products. So it depends on what the product is, would depend on what inspector you will be looking at it. Live animals will always be vets looking at those. Products of animal origin, if it's meat, dairy, it will be an official veterinarian. If it's fish or shellfish, it will be official fish inspector or official veterinarian. In terms of the actual border posts themselves, I mentioned if you go to the gov.uk website, they list out the details of each port. On the IPAF's notification, you'll always have to identify which border control post your food is coming into. But if you're not clear, then this website actually provides you with the details and the contact details of each port. So if you've got a product and you're not sure, you can always contact the port in advance just to clarify whether indeed it's the correct port to import into. If you import products or attempt to import products into the wrong port, then things might not end well. Depending on the nature of the product, it may be refused entry or it might not be permitted at all. Okay, so thank you for listening to this short video on border control posts. That was 1 out of 100. There are 99 others, plus of course our online training service, which contains a lot more information. Hopefully you'll join me on the next video. Thanks for watching.